Hey, welcome to this video. So I'm going to be doing a blush declutter today, and well, I guess it's a bronzer, blush, and highlighter declutter, but I own a lot more blush, so I imagine most of it will be skewed towards that. I tend to turn over my collection pretty often. I don't always get around to sitting down and doing a big declutter. I am quick to notice when something's not really my vibe, I'm not reaching for it, and to declutter that. So if there's anything that's been featured on my channel before that you don't see here, feel free to mention it if you're curious, and I can tell you why I've already gotten rid of it, because if you don't see it here, I've already decluttered it. But nevertheless, I think that this is a nice way to go over all the things that are in my collection right now, and we'll just run through them. It's getting a little crowded, and I feel like this will make for a good video. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at, and I am mostly not that happy about my blush collection, which kind of lives in these two little tins. As you can see, they're kind of overflowing, they're getting hard to organize, and like if I want one thing, I have to like undo everything in here and then restack everything in. Not super ideal. And then I don't have that many other products in the categories of highlighter and bronzer, but I figured that it kind of all makes sense to show together. So for starters, I have my Salt New York Pro palette, and this is staying as is. I only have two blushes in here, two bronzers, and the Sneaky Bomb in here, and I have plenty of room to spare. The Salt New York situation kind of lives on its own because it's in this own like self-contained palette that the whole like organization doesn't clash with anything else here, so that's that. Let's do some of the easier parts first. I have two face palettes here. This one I think is the 2018 Hourglass Ambient Lighting palette. Yeah, it's volume 4 if that's helpful for anyone. I love it. It was one of my like first big girl makeup purchases. It's quite old at this point, but you know, everything still works just fine. I've flattened out a little bit of the bronzer. I do reach for this pretty often. It gives a really pretty airbrushed look. This other one is from Florasis, and I think it's just beautiful. The powder and the bronzer I'm not too blown away by. I like the color of this bronzer. It's a nice cool tone, but I haven't found that it applies the smoothest. The powder I'm not like convinced does a lot. It blurs a little. This highlighter is actually my favorite powder highlighter, which is not saying that much because I haven't tried many powder highlights in a long time, but this one just gives like the prettiest sheen, and it looks pretty intense right here, but it's not too dramatic on the face. So big fan of this palette still. Okay, now let's talk about my highlighters. I'm definitely keeping this little Trestique one. This I got in like an Ipsy box years and years and years ago, and I only have this tiny nub left. It's really pretty. It's super subtle, and I'm about to use it up. Yeah, gives like a very nice metallic sheen. It's a very thin formula. It doesn't have any balminess. In fact, it feels like almost a little chalky, but not in a bad way, just in one that's like super subtle feeling on the face. So I've liked that for years, and I'm so close to using that up. So these three right here, the 4-in-1 Perfector, the Hollywood Flawless, and the e.l.f. Halo Glow, are all pretty similar, almost even kind of redundant. But I'm going to keep all three of these actually, because these two are almost interchangeable. I find their formulas to be pretty much spot on the same as far as the effect that they give to my face. Super pretty, super sheeny, nothing too metallic, really just like everything I want in a highlighter pretty much. For a practical sake, this Hollywood Flawless filter I have in the travel size, much smaller, much more easy to slap on and go, so I'm definitely going to keep this around just so I have that smaller option if I ever need it. And then the 4-in-1 Perfector is actually my favorite for like less makeup-y days, no makeup days even. It's super, super sheer. It's like a notch down from the Flawless Filter slash Halo Glow. I can show you. So like if I squeeze out some of the Perfector product, you can see that like you can only really catch the sheen of it and here, and it's pretty much a translucent base. And then it just gives me some extra glow, whereas the Halo Glow and the Perfector both have like a colored base to it. So there's a lot more oomph to this product than the 4-in-1 Perfector, but this just gives like a really nice glowy sheen that feels really smooth. And I think I'm actually going to get rid of this Flower Spotlight liquid highlighter. This I picked up because it was supposed to be a dupe for the Hollywood light wands, beauty light wands, which I had always heard a lot about. Thought, I feel like this feels like something that I would like. It's a bit metallic for me personally. I have the one in Gleam, the one that's a little bit more rosy, and I think it's a hint too much slash maybe dark for me. I think I would probably recommend this for medium skin tones. Maybe if I had this in the lighter color, I would reach for it more, but nevertheless, the formula is pretty. It's just a bit too metallic for my general liking. Let's put that in the corner here. Okay, let's tackle some of these blushes. I think what I should do is take everything out of these little containers that I have. So this all organizes pretty nicely right here. Let's see, it's not like a crazy amount, but it's more than I can really comfortably use. It's starting to overflow from the space that I want it to take up. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is I know that there are some that I'm not reaching for at all, so I might as well clear up some space. For starters, I'm getting rid of the e.l.f. putty blushes. In general, am just not huge on this formula. I find these colors to be quite pretty, but the formula is like quite patchy for me to work with. It'll lift up on itself, and then I also feel like the moussey powder or cream to powder formulation, sometimes it works for me, but in this e.l.f. formulation, it's kind of looks a little drying. It'll highlight any dry patches I have. So that I know a lot of people love them, so if they work for you, awesome. They're like a really affordable option with a lot of pretty colors. I'm definitely keeping, honestly, both of these cloud paints. The Dusk gets a lot of mileage for me because it is that perfect like in between color of being quite neutral, but also like giving my face more dimension and more flush, but it's not necessarily pink. So love that. We'll be keeping these. In the same vein, the MAC Glow Play blush in So Natural is kind of a similar color to Dusk from Glossier. It's got a little bit of sheen. It's got this like fun bouncy texture to it. And again, very, very natural to slap on, and it doesn't necessarily scream like pink flushed cheeks or a super blushy look, but it's great at just adding like dimension and color back to my face. I'm a huge fan. This has been one of my favorites ever since I got it. Oh, I'll definitely be keeping both of these nude sticks. I haven't purchased from them in a while either, but in general, I like a stick blush cream formula. I find it pretty convenient. I generally like them a little bit more than a like pot or pan formula, just in terms of ease of use. Sunkissed is an awesome, awesome color that I often travel with because it gives like a burntness to the cheeks, but it's also almost a bronzer color, so I kind of using it like using it as just an in-between, and then on those days I don't even bother with bronzer. And then Bareback falls in much more of a mauvey, almost greigey color, as opposed to like a warm, natural looking blush. And then something I know that I don't really want to keep around is this rose pink blush from Honest Beauty. I think the packaging is great, the price point is great, the formula is pretty nice. It's kind of got a smell to it, like old lipstick. It's kind of unnecessarily sweet. I think the color is really nice, but it's a color that I have multiple times over, and also this version of this color is just a hint more cool pink than I would really like, so I feel fine with getting rid of it. And also the formula, while it works just fine, it's like got a nice balminess, it's quite dewy and comfortable on the cheeks. I think that it really feels like a lipstick formulation but just melted down. I don't know how to best describe this, but if you're someone who uses lipsticks often as blush, like it kind of feels like maybe a MAC satin lipsticks melted down, and it's got like the way it blends out and the thickness of it. I don't know. It just really feels like nothing special to me. I don't love the scent. The color is nothing crazy, and I don't find myself reaching for it. I'm going to declutter this Pat McGrath blush in Flirtatious, and I'm kind of sad about it. It looks like it would be just right, very pretty, kind of in this like similar neutral vein, but the color it ends up being on my face just feels very boring, and like I have a few times over. I've gone in store and looked at the color that they have there, and I think the color I have is a little bit off. The ones that I see in store are just a hint more desaturated than what I have here, and I think I would have much preferred that. As it stands now, this color shows up to be really similar. I know it doesn't necessarily look like they would be the same, but on my face, the effect it gives is very similar to this Makeup by Mario blush in Desert Rose. On my face, I feel like they give a pretty similar effect, and I just enjoy the sleekness of this packaging a little bit more than the Pat McGrath one, and I kind of like this formula just a little bit more. The Pat McGrath one is very velvety, but I don't know. I'm just like a little disappointed by the color I have here. I don't think it feels like anything special on my face, and I really thought it would be something that was just up my alley, but it just doesn't feel that special to me. So that's going in the declutter pile, while this Makeup by Mario one, which I don't know, I kind of find myself consistently reaching for over the Pat McGrath one, because as I said, they give a very similar effect on my face, though they might not look exactly like they would. That one's going in the keep pile. I have this Can Make Beauty blush in the shade 16. It's a very pretty like terracotta sort of shade. The formula, it is that kind of moussey cream to powder formula. This I feel like is what the e.l.f. formulation should have been. This is super smooth. It's got like it does do that cream to powder thing, but it still feels kind of soft and hydrating on the face after it's kind of settled down. I'm a big fan. It's super even. It's really easy to work with. The packaging I think is cute. It's pretty minimal. Mine's super old and dinged up, but yeah, highly recommend this formula, and these are also very affordable as well. This Kiko Milano one I think is a very pretty and interesting color. It's kind of new to me, and I'm not convinced I love it. It like shows up a bit bolder on my face than it looks in the pan, but because it's new to me, I'm gonna keep working with it. I think I might like it a lot in the winter. So yeah, I don't have much to report on, but I haven't used it enough to justify decluttering it by any means. let's see. I'm definitely going to keep my Rare Beauty blush in Bliss. This is the only one I have in the more matte formula. And this color, I actually don't really have anything else like it in my collection. It's like a nice soft baby pink. I'm a big fan of it. The matte formulation has a lot more impact than the dewy one, so I might actually be able to use up this little mini, which is kind of exciting. Among these here, I find some of the colors that I have left are like pretty repetitive, like this blush in Peace and this Flower Beauty blush in Nectar are both this like really peachy kind of look, which is also not that different from Dusk. I feel like there's a bit of a gradient going on here, you know, as far as like my peachy options. So here is Peace, this is Nectar, and this is Dusk. I think I'm going to declutter Peace because it's just a little bit too orangey bright for me. On the days where I put on Nectar, I already feel like that's like a lot of punchiness. The formulas are kind of similar, except I think that the Nectar formula has a little bit more translucency, whereas the peach one is much more punchy. So between the two, I think that I like this color in Hope a little bit better. It's a pretty, you know, standard looking blush color, but I have been finding that I will usually mix Peace with something else, or like I'll mix these two together even, just because I feel like it's a little bit too much on its own for me. So I'll keep Nectar. That I like this color in Pinched a lot. The only thing is it's like strangely sheer. It's so much more sheer. So here is Pinched for reference right next to it. And then here's a nice dollop of, oh no, this is Nectar. This is like twice the amount of Pinched, and you can kind of see that it's just kind of quite sheer. I like it, but when I put it on my face, I don't find it gives enough. It kind of just gives a very dewy effect and like barely there blush. I find myself reaching for something else to layer on top, so I think I'm going to declutter Pinched. Okay, and then last up, I'm probably going to keep this Tower 28 blush. I got this pretty recently, within the last few months. This is one of their newer colors in Office Hours. I think it's quite pretty. Is it? Yeah, I don't really think I have anything too similar to this in my collection. Maybe it's kind of close to the shade Hope. Yeah, it's pretty close to Hope. But in any case, I feel like the formulations are different enough for me to justify keeping them both and testing them out a little bit more. This bronzer from Bare Minerals I thought I would love, but I don't know. I feel like maybe the sheen is just a little bit too much on my face. I haven't been loving it each time I put it on. I don't really think I should keep it. And then same with this Phytosurgeons from Feather. Well, okay. I could have seen this coming. This color is a little bit much for me. The formulation is really fun to work with, but the color is like really intense. I think I'm gonna keep it because it's really unique to my collection, but I think if I ever got around to ordering more from Phytosurgeons, I might get a different color and then end up replacing this color. But this is very unique to my collection, both in terms of formulation and color. I'm not convinced it looks the best on me, but I kind of want to keep it around to finick with some more. Okay, now these here are not very exciting. These are my bronzers. I don't have very many. As I talked about before, I don't like the e.l.f. putty formula that applies for the bronzers as well. I have the shade in, I think it's like tan lines and feeling shady. This contour shade, I could barely get it to show up on my skin. It's a little bit light. I think if you're my skin tone or any lighter, it might work for you, but if you're any deeper, it's not really gonna look like much. Again, I found it to pick up on itself. It's hard to work with, didn't really give me much effect. So yeah, off with these two. But otherwise, I love all the bronzers that I have in my collection. There's really not that many. I have these two stick ones, the So Soft in Terra from M Cosmetics, and this one is a little bit on the cooler side. And then I also have the Rare Beauty one in, I think, yeah, Happy Soul. And these formulas I find to perform kind of similarly on my face in that they're like buttery, smooth, super easy to blend out, sheerable, spreads really evenly and easily. But the Rare Beauty one I reach for like a warmer look, and the Terra one is very neutral to cool. Like I can contour with it, but I feel like it's also good at just like not necessarily bronzing and warming up my face, but giving my face back shape and definition. So love it for that. The Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Skin Enhancer I have in the shade Light, and now that I'm a little bit tan, it is probably a little too light for me, but it gives like this really pretty glassy warmed up effect to the face, and I think that I mean I liked it before I got a little too tan for it, but I think I'll love it again in the winter because again it just adds like a nice balmy glassy look. And then my Gucci powder bronzer, have the shade 1, which works great for me. It's almost got like a little bit of red rosiness to it, and I like it a lot. I kind of use it again as like an in-between blush and bronzer, though it certainly does work as a bronzer. This has a strong scent, but I love the packaging. Here are all the things I'm decluttering, and I decided that I am actually going to declutter this Skin Spark blush. This color is just a bit too much for me. I don't really see myself reaching for it much. However, I am very motivated to try and purchase something from their new collection. I feel like this isn't as much as I wanted, but when I look at what I have left, it's pretty minimal and full of like really standout favorites, and this is enough to make enough space in my collection, at least for me to organize, I think. So let's do that. Okay, so here are my blushes. I usually have little lipstick holders that I keep things around this size in, so that's gonna go out. And as far as all my other blushes, here they all are. This Trace Stick highlighter I'm just gonna keep on top. These ones I reach for really often, so it'll be good that it's right here. So yeah, these bins, much more clear, easy to navigate. And then as far as all the other things go, these don't really fit into these bins nicely anyways. I usually keep like basically all of this in other areas of my makeup collection. But it's nice because, like I said, some of these tubes fit into some lipstick holder areas that I like. So it's nice that I have less of those items and more room for others now. Actually, you know what? I think I am gonna keep these little Rare Beauty blushes right in there. So that's nice. Basically all my blushes are in there now. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.